Live from WSLS, this is 10 News at 5, working for you.
Today we've had a national tragedy.
Now at 5.
Oh my God, look at the towers on the floor there.
The terror attacks of 9/11, 20 years later.
It feels as, I guess, unbelievable or crazy as it did 20 years ago to think that you were there at that one moment of all the places you could be.
The memorial services being held across the country and here at home to honor the lives lost. Plus, many frustrations over the Blue Ridge Rock Festival, the struggles from concert goers, and how organizers are working to fix the issues. Good evening and thanks for joining us for 10 News at 5. I'm Lindsay Ward. John Carlin has the evening off. 20 years after the 9/11 image, the moment, the terror, they're all still hard to believe. Nearly 3,000 people died that day, innocent victims going through their normal morning routines when terror struck. 4 hijacked planes, 2 crashing into the Twin Towers in New York City, 1 crashing into the Pentagon, the other in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Tomorrow at the 9/11 Memorial in New York City, family members will continue the tradition of reading aloud the names of those killed. Past presidents, including Barack Obama, will also be in attendance. Former President Bush will speak at the Flight 93 Memorial. Meanwhile, President Biden will be at both memorials, including one at the Pentagon.
That day is forever seared into all of our memories. The pain, the terror, the enormous loss, and also the incredible displays of courage.
Memorials are planned all across the country this weekend. 10 News reporter Courtney Lockie joins us now live in Lynchburg at Monument Terrace. So, Courtney, it was just after the attacks that the group actually started gathering out there.
That's right, Lindsay. And, you know, that is what made today's event so emotional and so powerful. When those who serve and have served learned that some of their fellow soldiers were going to be deployed overseas to fight against the war of terrorism, they started gathering here. They've been doing so for the last 20 years, and they've never missed a Friday.
8:46 a.m. in New York City. American Flight 11 is about to hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center in Manhattan. In the next 102 minutes, 2,977 innocent people will be murdered and over 25,000 will be injured.
I was a colonel serving in the Pentagon on the 11th of September of 2001. My boss's secretary screamed, and about that time there was a huge thud. We were about 100 yards away from the plane where it impacted the building.
20 years later, people all over the nation remember and understand the magnitude of what happened that day.
I was actually watching TV when the second plane went into the World Trade Center. And as soon as I saw that, I said, this is no accident.
Close to 15,000 soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen have been killed in the battle against terrorism.
The terror attacks hadn't stopped the United States military for even an hour. By 6 the next morning, those like Scott West were called back to the Pentagon, where the Army staff briefed out the war plan for the invasion of Afghanistan.
Never in my military career had I been more proud to be an American than at that very time.
If you weren't able to make it out to the memorial service at Monument Terrace today, there will be another one held tomorrow night at 8:30. That will be at the Field of Honor in Forest. Reporting live tonight in Lynchburg, Courtney Lockie, 10 News, working for you.
This morning, Danville firefighters, police, and community members participated in a 9/11 memorial stair climb at Workout Anytime. They used the stair machines to complete 110 flights of stairs, the same amount first responders took while rescuing people from the World Trade Center. And as the world marks 20 years since September 11th, several U.S. lawmakers are calling on Congress to act. A bipartisan group of responders, survivors, and advocates gathered in New York, urging Congress to pass the 9/11 Responder and Survivor Health Funding Correction Act. It would ensure adequate funding now and in the future for 9/11 responders and survivors who are injured.
And we've made it a passion to see that this third group of heroes at least gets both the compensation and health care they need. because their heroism should be acknowledged and appropriately rewarded.
The act would also study possible toxic exposure and psychological trauma of about 3,500 children who lived or attended school in the area. And we will have a lot more stories to share with you later in the show and throughout our 90 minutes of local news tonight. And tomorrow morning on Virginia Today, starting at 6, we'll take you live to Ground Zero and the special ceremonies honoring those who lost their lives.
Live from WSLS, this is 10 News at 6, working for you.
Now at 6, after 4 long days, America has decided. Joe Biden will officially become the 46th President of the United States. Celebrations now pouring in from coast to coast, marking this historic moment.
We're moving a person out of the White House who was divisive.
This as we await Joe Biden to address the nation later this evening for the first time as president-elect. And good evening. After days of uncertainty with votes being counted all across the country, Joe Biden has secured the 270 electoral votes he needs to become the president-elect of the United States. Let's take a look at the electoral map tonight. It was Biden's home state of Pennsylvania that put him over the top. That happened just about midday today at 270 votes. And then late today, he also secured the 6 votes in Nevada. So as of this afternoon, he has a total of 279 electoral votes, with President Trump still standing at 214. Of course, there's plenty of celebrating happening all across the country. You're looking live right now at Washington, D.C., Black Lives Matter Plaza, where people have been out all day since the announcement was made. However, as Sarah Doloff explains tonight, President Trump continues to not go down without a fight.
Live from WSLS, this is 10 News Virginia Today at 6, working for you.
This week we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success.
Final messages from President Trump on his last full day in office.
As he leaves Washington, a new administration plans to take over with big plans already in place.
This morning, we have all you need to know ahead of a monumental day in America and what Biden and Trump are doing right before the historic events begin. But we begin with breaking news this morning. In one of his final moves as president, President Trump pardoned 73 people late last night.
The list included former campaign chair Steve Bannon, former top GOP fundraiser Elliot Broidy, and rapper Lil Wayne. It did not include any of his family members.
Take a live look now in D.C. this morning. In just a few hours, Joe Biden will be standing at the Capitol as the 46th president of the United States. President Trump will have already left for Florida, making him the first president in over 150 years to not attend his successor's swearing in. As Tracy Potts explains, today's inauguration signals a new era for the nation. Some 25,000 National Guardsmen and women are standing by this morning to help with security at the inauguration. That includes service members from here in the Commonwealth, all of which are assisting local and federal law enforcement. Many parts of Washington, D.C. look more like a war zone than the nation's capital. Destiny Hairston is with a unit out of Danville and says she's honored to do her part.
It's pretty surreal, honestly. I never thought I'd be doing something like this.
Yeah.
But it's an honor, like, just to be out here, having a purpose, you know, doing something that's meaningful for the United States. A lot of people don't get this experience.
12 members of the National Guard from across the country have been removed from duty after further vetting. Federal authorities are not saying much about what they found.
President Trump is scheduled to depart from Washington, D.C. one last time as president around 8 this morning. You'll see it live here on WSLS 10 when it happens. And coverage of Joe Biden's inauguration starts at 10 this morning, which you can also watch right here on WSLS 10.
We will be closely watching every development in Washington today. For all you need to know when we're not on the air, head to WSLS.com.
From WSLS, this is 10 News Virginia Today at 6, working for you.
Winter weather alert. Our entire region waking up to a powerful storm bringing ice, sleet, snow, and power outages.
From school closures to travel concerns, we're working for you to break down everything you need to know before you head out the door.
Millions of people in Texas are still in the dark this morning after a monster storm. Why the so-called energy capital of the world is mostly powerless. Good morning and happy Thursday to you. We thank you for waking up with us with a lot of winter weather around. I'm Patrick McKee alongside Jenna Zipton and Rachel Lucas.
The most impactful winter storm of the season is here. Your local weather authority has been tracking this and forecasting this all week.
There are nearly 200 school and business closures and delays this morning. Those are scrolling at the bottom of your screen and online at WSLS.com.
We've got live team coverage for you from all across the region this morning. We're working for you to break down exactly what you need to know as you wake up on this Thursday. We'll kick things off with meteorologist Justin McKee and the latest in the forecast. Justin, this is not looking good.
Yeah, you know, it's been more sleet and freezing rain so far for many of you, and we have seen those accumulations of the sleet over in Blacksburg. That is our camera over at Virginia Tech. Have an update to the winter storm warning that was extended until 7 a.m. on Friday for the entire viewing area. So even though precipitation might not necessarily be falling overnight tonight, we are still going to have the impacts in the form of the icy roadways as well as the power outages. So this is the last few hours on the radar. You see lots of that purple and pink indicating the freezing rain, and there is some blue on the map, but that doesn't necessarily tell the full story because temperatures aloft are a little bit warmer, and that actually melts the snowflakes on the way down. Temperatures at the surface are certainly cold enough for anything to stick. You can see they're in the 20s and the 30s, but as I mentioned, further aloft up at the 4,000-foot level, we are going to have what is called a warm nose, and that makes freezing rain the most likely precipitation type over the course of today. Here are the impacts for your Thursday. It looks like up to 3/4 of an inch of ice going to be possible, especially if you live in Southside. So that's going to cause the roads to be icy, and power outages also going to be likely. Speaking of those outages, we'll send things over to Patrick.
And we are seeing plenty of those power outages across the region this morning. The ice storm is the second significant weather event for Southwest Virginia in less than a week. Most of the region, or at least some of us, are still recovering from those widespread outages we saw, but the numbers are much smaller, at least for now. Danville was hard hit. Those outages down to 350 without power. Appalachian Power customers, 450 homes in Southwest Virginia are currently in the dark. You can see the green there. That's where we're seeing the bullseye for the most of those in Franklin and Pittsylvania counties. The main concern is the ice will stick on trees, causing them to snap, and then they fall on the power lines, which is what happened during the last storm when we saw thousands upon thousands of people in the dark.
Our team coverage continues this morning. 10 News reporter Megan Woods is keeping an eye on the interstate forest. Megan, how's it looking on Interstate 81?
Well, right now we are in Rockbridge County, and it took us a lot longer to get here. That's why we're telling you, if you need to be out here and get somewhere, give yourself extra travel time. Let me show you what we're seeing right now on the road. So typically you would go 70 miles per hour here. We're going up 40 miles per hour just to make sure that we are safe. And we are seeing a couple of slick spots, but again, we've seen crews come down here, plow this and get it as clear as possible for right now. Take a look at some video we were able to get earlier today, and that was in Botetourt County, and you can see how heavy this mix is with the rain and the snow and the sleet. That's what the concern is when it comes to the roadways, because if VDOT or any other plow crews can't get there in enough time, that's what we drive through. So if you don't need to be out on the roadways right now, stay at home. If you do, give yourself extra travel time, slow down. We are keeping up with these road conditions throughout the morning, but as for right now, back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Megan. Let's head to Annie Schroeder, who is joining us live this morning in Roanoke at Valley Mall. Annie, what are you seeing there?
Patrick, good morning. You know, while it may not look like a whole lot going on right now here in terms of precipitation, we're going to give you a look at some of the ice that has building up on the grass here near Valley View Mall. I mean, look at this stuff. You can really see it kind of sticking and clumping together. It's really an icy mess. here on the grassy areas in Roanoke. But, in terms of road conditions, in terms of driving on 581 this morning, for the main part, to the main stretch here of 581 near Valley View Mall is mostly okay. Not a lot of people out on the road. Thankfully, people taking the advice to stay home if you can, because obviously there are some slushy spots. We did see some slushy spots over bridges, overpasses, exit ramps, that sort of thing. So again, really just a gross morning in terms of weather. I much prefer summer. Justin can tell you I've been counting the days for that for quite some time now. So again, we'll be here tracking the latest road conditions. If you do have to head out the door today, just make sure you give yourself some extra time to do that. Live in Roanoke this morning, Annie Stroder, 10 News, working for you.
I enjoy summer too. Thanks, Annie. Taking a look at road conditions in the New River Valley. Here's a live look along Interstate 81 in Christiansburg, where you can see on the side of the interstate there some conditions that look like snow, ice. You see traffic there moving pretty well, but people driving in this morning into the 10 News studios from the New River Valley saying that it was icy. So keep that in mind.
And VDOT crews are out and about working on these roads all across Southwest Virginia.
Joining us live, VDOT spokesman Jason Bond. Jason, tell us, where are the problem spots right now for your crews?
Well, we're seeing a mix of ice and freezing rain, sleet, snow, everything. But mostly the biggest concern is the ice. We are seeing icing conditions, particularly south and east of Roanoke. Roads are becoming slick, particularly in the higher elevations. Secondary roads are starting to become icy. We are continuing to focus on those main roads, interstates and primary routes as the precipitation continues, but these roads are just recovering with ice and snow. So really, there are many problem areas as far as icy roads and slick conditions.
And Jason, power outage is going to be something we're going to be watching very closely, and I have to imagine that those trees coming down could have some impact on crews trying to get roads cleared.
Well, whenever we have trees down in the roadway, if there's a power line that is tangled in those trees, we have to coordinate with the utility company so we can get those lines removed before we can remove the debris and trees and reopen those roadways. So it definitely slows things down, but we do coordinate with those utility companies so we can get those roads open as quickly as possible. We also have challenges when we have power outages with our traffic signals not working. They aren't powered, so we would ask that people treat those as a four-way stop if you are out and about and see one of those traffic signals.
Obviously, with snow, you can just push it off the roadway. How do you deal with ice, especially a prolonged event like this?
Well, we put down a mixture of salt and some abrasives. The salt, of course, is to help melt that ice. The abrasives are to provide traction. And then once we apply those chemicals and abrasives, sometimes we have to wait for Mother Nature to help us out with some warmer temperatures. But really, ice is much more difficult to deal with. We can't plow it, and drivers can't see it, so it's definitely a hazardous condition.
All right, Jason Bond from the Virginia Department of Transportation, we thank you so much for the information.
If you're without power in Halifax or Pittsylvania counties, warming centers will be available for the next few days. The following fire departments will be open: Tuberville, Oak Level, Midway, Cluster Springs, Clover, and Triangle. They're open today and tomorrow from 2 to 8 p.m. and on Saturday from 10 until noon. North Fork Baptist will also be open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. You're urged to call ahead to that number you see on your screen. Pennsylvania County volunteer fire departments will also be open from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. We have more info on these warming centers and that list on WSLS.com.
Losing power during cold weather can be more than just an inconvenience. It could pose a carbon monoxide danger. Carbon monoxide, known as the silent killer, is especially dangerous because it is colorless and odorless. It's most likely a risk in the winter when our furnace is running. Doctors say it's important to know the warning signs.
If you notice in a loved one or someone else or a friend that they're experiencing symptoms such as headache, nausea, excessive daytime sleepiness, fatigue, lethargy, those are all signs that they might be being exposed to carbon monoxide, and you want to have that checked.
If you or a loved one begin to experience any of those symptoms, he says get out of the house immediately and call the fire department.
The storm we're seeing today is the same one that has wreaked havoc across other parts of the nation, including Texas. Part of the Lone Star State has been without power for days. The intense cold snap has crippled the state's power system. The timeline for when it could come back on is vague. Texas is the only state with its own power grid, which critics say allows it to bypass federal regulations for cold weather safeguards. Texans won't get a break anytime soon, with more winter weather in the forecast.
COVID vaccine distribution plans being impacted by the winter weather. The Roanoke City and Allegheny health districts postponed today's clinic at the Berglund Center. If you were scheduled to attend, you're now asked to arrive tomorrow, 1 hour later than your original time. The New River Health District also closing the vaccination center today and taking appointments for tomorrow. There might be more delays, so stay here with us on 10 News and online for updates. And this winter weather is supposed to last all day and into the night. Your local weather authority has you covered when we're not on the air. Download the 10 News and weather apps now before you lose power and internet so you can stay up to date on conditions where you live.
10 News begins right now with a breaking news alert.
Now at 11, protesters take to the streets of the Star City for a second day.
Our feelings are hurt. We're bleeding, we're crying.
Virginia now in a state of emergency as local leaders prepare to take action.
Our goal is to maintain a safe environment, and that includes the presence of police officers.
And a country on fire demanding justice as cities brace for another night of protests. We're working for you to bring you the latest on this rapidly changing situation.
Good evening. Protests in the wake of George Floyd's death continued peacefully here in the Star City today, but that hasn't been the same story in other parts of the country. We want to get you up to speed by giving you a live look at the situation across the country. We start in Boston, where looting continues tonight, and we watched as a police car was set on fire and bottles were thrown at police officers. Now we want to get you to Washington, D.C., where you can see that smoke rising. There have been fires, multiple fires set within blocks of the White House. There are reports of protesters burning American flags and cars. Right here in the Star City, the situation has remained peaceful.
And news begins right now with a breaking news alert.
Now at 5:30, communities have been on edge all day as the search continues for a Marine wanted for murder in Franklin County. It's now turned into a nationwide search and moved into the Star City today after a confirmed sighting of suspect Michael Brown. John and Lindsay are live in the field tonight at one of the many scenes police have been combing through all day. And we just got word that the shelter in place was lifted near you a short time ago.
All right, well, Lindsay and I are live tonight. Thank you, Brittany. We are here in the Grandin area. We are at St. Elizabeth's Episcopal Church, and there's a key reason for us being here
Absolutely.
tonight.
This is where the suspect's RV was found earlier today, and we were the first on the scene here early this morning.
We want you to take a look at some photos of the suspect. He's 22-year-old Michael Brown, and police need your eyes to help find him. But one of the things they wanted us to remind you is that he is not afraid to change up his look.
Now, this all started on Saturday when the Franklin County Sheriff's Office said Brown killed his mother's boyfriend, Rodney Brown. Then the manhunt began when Brown's car was found in South Carolina.
In fact, last night on the 11 o'clock news, we reported that the car was in South Carolina. But then this morning, the suspect was spotted near Tillett Road, not far from where we're standing right now here in Roanoke. That's where his grandmother lives. And then, as we said, the RV was found where we are right now at St. Elizabeth's Episcopal Church in the Grandin area.
We're bringing you live team coverage tonight from every location in this manhunt.
And we want to start now with 10 News reporter Arisha Jones. She is live. She's on Amherst Street in Roanoke today with more on the search from law enforcement. Arisha.
This search spans from Franklin County to South Carolina and now Roanoke.
Michael Brown is wanted by local and federal law enforcement. They believe he is on foot. Right now, the focus of the search is in the Grandin Road, Tillett Road, and Patrick Henry High School areas. With that being said, the police chief said earlier today the public is not in danger. Late this afternoon, the shelter in place was lifted, but police still want you to remain aware of your surroundings. Investigators have reason to believe he is armed and dangerous.
He's been mobile. We have information that he has military training. He has weapons perhaps at his disposal. And so with all those things combined and with his military training, he pushes the threshold a little bit higher of a concern. And obviously he has been deliberately trying to not be apprehended by law enforcement.
Police believe Brown may be seeking other ways of transportation out of the area. Chief Jones says today is not the day to leave your car running unattended or giving strangers a ride. This is just a precaution in case you do come across Brown in any way. Now, Roanoke City Police are using every resource they have available to them during this search, including helicopters and other law enforcement officials. Live in Roanoke, Arisha Jones, 10 News, working for you.
All right, thank you, Arisha. This manhunt started this morning in Roanoke very early when police say that Brown was tapping on either the window or the door at his grandmother's house on Tillett.
And that's where we find 10 News reporter Lindsay Kennett. She's been live in that neighborhood all day long. So, Lindsay, what's it been like there for neighbors today?
Live from WSLS, this is 10 News at 5, working for you.
Now at 5, the push to get more Americans vaccinated ramps up as we begin a national month of action. We're working for you, getting answers on your vaccine questions and what you need to know to get a shot where you live. And
we continue our In Your Town tour with this week's stop in Bedford.
We are here at the D-Day Memorial, and yes, we'll be talking about the memorial, but we'll also be looking at all the other great things that Bedford and the surrounding community have to offer. That's coming up in our 90 minutes of early local news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for 10 News at 5. I'm Lindsay Ward. President Biden's all-out push to vaccinate 70% of adults by July 4th begins today on this National Day of Action. We've come a long way in our vaccine rollout here in Southwest Virginia. The Pfizer vaccine started arriving mid-December with shots going into arms the next day for healthcare workers. Then we moved into mass vaccination clinics to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible. And now those mass clinics are wrapping up in our region. 10 News reporter McKinley Strother joins us now live to explain where the vaccine rollout stands right now and where the process goes from here. McKinley?
Lindsay, the process fundamentally has not changed. You still roll up, you roll up your sleeve, you get your shot. The thing is, though, nowadays there are fewer people around.
I think it was important to step back from the large community vaccination sites and have them more widely available closer to where more people are.
Dr. Chad Alvarez is a pharmacist with Carilion Clinic. His team administers hundreds of shots every day. You can get yours at Carilion pharmacies, other retail pharmacies like CVS or Walgreens, your primary care physician, of course, local health departments, and now across the community at different events like the one today where I am in Mount Zion AME on Melrose Avenue in Northwest Roanoke.
It's been laughter, it's been community, it's been family, it's been people feeling like, hey, I finally made it. I'm doing what I need to do.
This wasn't the first and it won't be the last. There are more community-focused events to come. We have that information for you on WSLS.com. We're live tonight in Northwest Roanoke. I'm McKinley Strother, 10 News, working for you.
Central Health in Lynchburg held its last mass vaccine clinic on this National Day of Action. 10 News reporter Courtney Lockey explains how they plan to continue vaccination efforts.
The clinic wrapped up just moments ago. It was a full day spent working to get the community an opportunity to build immunity. It was a busy morning and a steady afternoon. Lines started to form before the doors opened at 9. The majority of people who stopped by today were there to get their first dose. All 3 shots were available for people to choose from.
Health officials I talked with say right now about 45% of people in the Commonwealth are fully vaccinated, but they're seeing a bit of a drop-off since those most eager to get their shots have already had them.
We're seeing a lot more first doses of people that have had a change of heart and decided to come in. Everyone's eligible to get their vaccine now, so there's no reason not to.
Although this is Centra Health's final mass vaccination clinic, they want to remind you there are still several other places you can get your shot in town. In Lynchburg, Courtney Lockey, 10 News, working for you.
In the New River Valley, efforts are underway to reach people who haven't gotten their dose. The New River Health District has been focusing on smaller community vaccination clinics instead of those mass vaccination clinics. Health District Director Dr. Noel Bissell says they're setting up sites at individual companies, Claytor Lake State Park, and even baseball games, and bringing all 3 vaccines to the public. Health officials are also making themselves available to answer any questions or address concerns.
You know, we're trying to catch people where they are and make it easy and accessible.
Bissell says she's still going to push for vaccines in the NRV even after July the 4th. Sova Health is raising awareness about the importance of getting vaccinated in Southside. One practitioner says she understood people's hesitancy early on, but data shows the vaccines are effective and safe. She adds education is critical and urges people to get information from reliable scientific sources.
For anyone who's ready for life to return to a semblance of normalcy, this vaccine is going to be critical in that, and we've seen that progression already so far.
Now, according to the Virginia Department of Health, nearly 80,000 people in Southside have received at least 1 dose, and about 66,000 are fully vaccinated. As part of our continuing coverage for National Vaccine Day, we are working for you with a new initiative to answer any questions our community may have about the vaccine. 10 News reporter Annie Schroeder joins us now with some answers to your questions. Annie.
Yeah, Lindsay. Well, of course, the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine and lifting of restrictions has come with a lot of different questions. Through Ask 10, we're working for you to get the answers you need to know before getting your shots from some local experts. Now, one of the questions we have gotten about the vaccine is, if I had recently had COVID-19 and still have antibodies, should I wear a mask? How long should I wait until I get the vaccine?
We don't know how long natural immunity from the COVID virus lasts. The best protection for everyone is to get the COVID vaccine.
Now, if you have any questions you would like us to get the answers to, you can go ahead and head over to WSLS.com and look for the Ask 10 tab. Now, coming up at 5:30, we'll answer more questions about restrictions for those who are vaccinated in places of faith. In the studio tonight, Annie Schroeder, 10 News, working for you.
Thank you, Annie. And we want to know if you're vaccinated. You can vote in today's poll on the 10 News app. You just go to the menu button and hit vote, or you can go to WSLS.com/vote. You can also scan the QR code with your camera at the bottom of your screen, and we'll talk to we'll tell you about the final results on 10 News at 7. Temperatures are heating up as we head into the first weekend of June. Chief Meteorologist Jeff Hanowich is live in Bedford, kicking off our In Your Town coverage this evening. So, Jeff, it is really going to get hot, hot, hot the next few days.
Upper 80s to near 90, it's headed our way.